conference, and now we have the benefit of having two of those lawyers presented there in our presence. The third lawyer is, as mentioned, Attorney Arlene Kakapagaw is also one of our graduates from the Ateneo Law School. May I now call on Attorney Carlos Medina to give his hearing for about 10-15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Candelaria. Good afternoon to everyone. I am Carlos Medina. I am the Executive Director of the Ateneo Human Rights Center, the Secretary General of the Working Group for an ASEAN Human Rights Mechanism, and the National Co-Convenor of LENTE, the Legal Network for Truthful Elections. Part of my story is what you have seen in the film. And as you might have guessed, what makes me do these things, the things that I am involved in, it's primarily because of my belief in the concept of alternative lawyering. It was many, many years ago when, as a third or fourth year student here at the Ateneo Law School, some of the human rights lawyers then were discussing how to make lawyering relevant in the Philippines. I could not really understand what they were saying. They were discussing structural legal assistance, developmental legal aid. But what really struck me most was when they asked the question, in the present environment where most of the people are poor, where a lot of human rights violations take place, and where many of the poor do not have access to justice, what is the role of a lawyer in this kind of environment? The answer at the time, of course, was legal aid in the traditional sense. But legal aid in the traditional sense means the lawyer doing everything, the client doing nothing and expecting everything from the lawyer. So the lawyer was the main actor, and everything was focused on what the lawyer can do inside the court. And this created a relationship of dependency because the client, the poor client, had to depend on what the lawyer does. And in a sense, also retards the development, the growth of the client. This kind of lawyering had to be complemented with what we now call as alternative legal aid or alternative lawyering, where, as the film says, the primary role of the lawyer is to seek justice. The lawyer is primarily a seeker of justice, secondarily a lawyer. So if the goal is justice, then everything has to be done in order to achieve justice, including questioning the law itself. And if justice is a goal, it means that there are many roads to justice, one of which is the courtroom. Justice can also be achieved through pressure politics in the streets, through the media, through development work. And since there are many roads to justice, therefore there are also many actors. The lawyer is just one of those actors. Maybe he may be the main actor inside the courtroom, but in other venues where justice is sought, there are other actors. The people can also play a primary role. So in alternative lawyering, the goal is really justice. There is a bias for the poor, and therefore there is a need to know the poor. And in this kind of lawyering, which is educational, it is empowering, because the people participate in seeking justice. And this is the kind of philosophy that basically guides me in my work at the Ateneo Human Rights Center. When I had the opportunity also many years ago to head the center, I thought that guided by the principles of alternative lawyering, we should make our work relevant. And we developed what we now call as an internship program. A program to form social justice lawyers, where we send students for 2 weeks to 2 months and sometimes to a year to work with members of the alternative law groups in order to serve poor communities, poor clients. Part of the program, some of you might have undergone, includes living with vulnerable groups, particularly with indigenous peoples in the mountains. We do that twice a year, during the sem break and during the summer. So some of you might want to join the summer program. You will have to spend a week with the Mangyans in Mindoro. In many of these activities, after the students returned from field work, they told the center, why don't we have a program on children's rights? Why don't we have a program on migrant workers, indigenous peoples, women's rights? And they basically led to the development of many other programs at the Ateneo Human Rights Center. So we have a child rights desk, indigenous people's rights desk, migrant workers desk, and we have also developed a program to address the issue of extrajudicial or extralegal killings around the country. We are involved in setting up multi-sectoral quick reaction teams in many areas around the country to address this problem of impunity when it comes to extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances. Our involvement at the center has also led us to do some work at the regional level, particularly in Southeast Asia through the ASEAN Human Rights Mechanism. As some of you might be aware, we now have an ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, the first human rights mechanism in Asia. And the Human Rights Center has done maybe 15 to 16 years of work in having this system, this mechanism set up. The philosophy of alternative lawyering followed by the Human Rights Center has also led to the development of many human rights related courses here at the law school. Many members of the Human Rights Center are also faculty members teaching courses like human rights, humanitarian law, refugees, women, children's rights law. So some of you might want to also enroll in those courses. Based on our experience on the philosophy of alternative lawyering, we asked ourselves, in a situation where there is so much cheating in our elections, what is the role of a lawyer? As you are very much aware of, lawyers are very much part of the problem, but they are also part of the solution. And if you are to address the problematic electoral system that we have, what kind of lawyering should we engage in? This led us to get involved in the legal network for truthful elections, beginning in 2007. Some of you might already be involved with Lente. But in the beginning, when we were formed just a month before the 2007 elections, we only had a handful of volunteers. And many of them came from this law school. I'm very proud to say that, because when we started, we pretended that we had many lawyers, although we had many law students. But we were asked by many groups to go there, and provide legal services. And all we had really was just a handful of law students. And we prepared them by preparing a manual and sent them to give talks on election laws, procedures, and systems, on monitoring, on poll watching, armed with a manual which they are forced to read on the way to the seminar, and there act as if they have been experts, because that was the demand at that time. People were confused. People did not know what the election system was all about, how to address cheating. Because of that experience, there was this one is an aside. We sent some students to monitor the special elections in Marawi, Lanao del